Good morning. I'm Sheila from Sheila's Country Gardens. I'm 3 miles south of Hardington, and I'm glad you can join me this morning. Nice, beautiful, sunny morning. Hopefully spring is here to stay and we can start thinking about planting our planters and hanging baskets in our gardens. This morning I'm going to show you how to plant a hanging basket, and I have all the supplies here that I normally use when I plant a hanging basket. First of all, I like to start with, this is a 14-inch hanging basket, and I like to start with a, this size or bigger, because the smaller the hanging basket, the more you have to water things. So the wicker baskets and like your cocoa liners, I always like to line them with plastic because it keeps them from drying out as quick. This one is already lined with plastic, so I don't have to do that. I first put a little pad in. It's like a moisture pad that absorbs moisture, and it keeps your basket wet longer so you don't have to water as often. Or you can use the soil moist. They're little pellets that you just sprinkle in the ground and then when you water it, it absorbs that moisture and it holds the moisture in your basket. So I put this in first, and you can cut them in half if your basket is smaller or if you don't want to use a whole one, but put that in the bottom. And then you can start filling your basket. You want to use nice, good quality potting soil. This is what I use in the greenhouse here. It's a nice quality. There's vermiculite, perlite. It's just a good soil that doesn't dry out as quickly. And I sell that in a retail bag, but it's what I use in the greenhouse here. So we fill your pot up about halfway, depending on how big your plants are when you start, but I'm going to start with these little bit bigger pots, so you don't need to fill it up quite as full, otherwise you're going to have too much soil in there. And when you're picking out your plants, you always want to make sure that the plants that you put together are going to work together. If your planter is going to be in the full sun, you want everything that's going to be able to take the full sun. So this morning I picked out an angelonia, which they're very heat tolerant. They kind of take the place of a spike. They get tall and not quite as bushy as some plants do. So I'm going to put that in the middle. I just dig a little hole in the center, push it down in the soil a little bit, and then I love to mix bold colors together. I love those colors together, but I'm going to put this one in there because I like this plant. This is one of my favorite plants. It's a fan flower, and it can take a lot of heat and wind and doesn't take a lot of water. This comes in purple, white, and pink. So I'm going to plant 2 of these in this planter. Put one on one side. I kind of put it to the edge of the planter. Add a little bit more soil here. Then I'm going to put another one the opposite of that. Dig another little hole and make sure you push down a little bit and cover the roots up so that there's no roots showing. And then I'm going to use, this is a new crazy tunia. It's called Cosmic Purple. There's some really cool colors this year in petunias, so you have to come and check them out. Dig a hole, push it down in there, cover it with soil a little bit, and then put it, the second one just opposite of that one. And then if you need a little bit more soil, the soil, you don't want it too close to the top, otherwise when you water, the water is going to go over the edge of your pot. So I always leave about maybe a half an inch or an inch above or from the top of the planter. And you just kind of pat stuff in so everything is tight. And in about 4 weeks, this will be nice and full and beautiful. I also like to put slow release fertilizer in. I put like a tablespoon or so in here, and that really helps when you have a wet spell that you can't fertilize quite as often, or if you get busy and you just don't have time to fertilize, that slow release fertilizer really helps. And then I also, in the greenhouse, I use this Jack's fertilizer, and I sell that too, and that is a really overall good fertilizer for your planters. And usually I tell people to fertilize about every 2 weeks, and that's where the slow release fertilizer helps in between those weeks. That will help to keep it fertilized and keep it looking good. Then I water everything good, and when you water, you want to make sure you water well each time. You don't want to just put a little bit, because then the roots stay up to the top of the basket. You want to water so the water goes down to that pad down here, and that way it will stay wetter longer. And one thing that I tell people to do when they're wondering if they should water or not, when you pick up your planter, if you have to use some muscle, then it's wet enough. If it's real light and you're not really using any muscle, it's too dry, and give it a good soaking. In the summertime, when it gets hotter, like it's 80, 90 every day and it's windy, you water these every single day. If it's in the 50s and 60s and it has been watered good, you can maybe skip a day or two. But I always just kind of tell people, feel the weight of the planter, and that's the best way to kind of figure out if you need to water it or not. And then sometimes in the middle of summer, you think things are getting a little bit leggy. You can cut stuff back. It doesn't hurt them at all. Give them fertilizer when you do that. And in a week or two, it's going to be back to blooming and really beautiful hanging basket again. So I encourage you to try different things. There's so many different colors and varieties that you can put together. And I like to, in the greenhouse here, almost everything I have blooms all summer. I don't like to have a plant that just blooms once and it's done. It's got to be tough and bloom all summer. So you just have to use your imagination and have fun with your planting. Again, I'm 3 miles south of Hardington, Sheila, from Sheila's Country Gardens. We've got lots of beautiful things this spring. We do have some health guidelines in place. We ask if you come in that you wear a mask if you have one. There's hand sanitizer by the door that everybody should use before they come in. We don't want to have children this year, which is sad because they love to come in and look around and pick their own flowers, but we are going to limit the number of people in the greenhouse, so just keep that in mind. We have guidelines at the outside by the front door that you should read when you come in, before you come in. And just stay safe and do your part in keeping everybody healthy and safe. Thank you for listening today.